State has been giving the best of this conference hell for years already. Obviously Bill Snyder's the most legendary coach to ever coach there. He started off the career of Brent Venables, the current Oklahoma coach, and former coach Bob Stoops as well. So this is the guy that, they have tradition at Kansas State. As much tradition as almost anybody not named Oklahoma or Texas in that conference. Welcome back to Nobody's Safe. Nobody's safe. Nobody's safe. I'm your host, Jason Watkins. I am back with the frenemy, Mr. Bryce Pinson. And if you love college football, you are definitely in the right place. So before you forget, make sure to smash the subscriber button. Ring the bell so that you do not miss one moment of the Nobody's Safe podcast. Bryce Pinson, this is going to be our overall Big 12 preview show. This first segment, we're going to talk about what we would consider the bottom half or the others of the group. Although there's a couple of teams in here that could definitely make noise up at the top. So, we do want to do this in segments so that way we can, kind of break it down a little better for everybody. Bryce, what are you thinking about everything? Obviously, we've done a few of these. We've got the Oklahoma State preview coming out. It's a single preview tomorrow. The last one we did was Texas. But, bro, what up with that? Nair broke his leg, broke his head, broke his head. I don't know. He broke something.
By now. Hey, I spent 2 hours studying for that video. And I am watching highlights, and I am so excited about this guy.
So I hope everybody understands now that he's wearing a Texas hat, but he's an A&M fan, and this is what he knows.
My bad. Yeah.
So now whenever he starts talking that UT crap, that I understand more about the fact that Texas sucks.
Tell you what, Isaiah Nair is going to be incredible on 1 foot this year. I'm telling you right now, he's going to catch everything in that wheelchair that comes his way as he is guarding that water.
I think that he's definitely going to be a good player either way.
It ain't going to be this year.
Player. And I'll just say this. First off, I hate when you have season-ending injuries like that in a scrimmage of all things, something like that, where it's just, that sucks. Yeah. You know what I mean? Hate to see that for anybody. Hope those guys get back sooner than later. Obviously, I think there's 3 that are going to miss the entire season. But hey, that's the beauty of college football is you get another year of eligibility when something like that happens. So they'll still get their chance to come back and make their play. We're going to take a look at. Starting off, we're going to go on like you said, what we would consider the bottom half, Kansas State, West Virginia, TCU, Iowa State with this first one. Obviously, there's a couple of teams in that will definitely have something to say about the Big 12. I really think, and then Texas Tech also in that group as well. What I would tell you is this: in this group of teams, especially because the Big 12 overall, I think this year there's more parity in this conference than there's been in a long time. I don't expect much out of Kansas. Sorry, Jayhawks, I just don't. But when you look at guys like Kansas State, you look at TCU even. Obviously, TCU has been one of the upper tier teams for a while. But the last few years they haven't.
That's a problem.
And then. Yeah, and listen, but I'll say Sonny Dykes was beating him at SMU.
Oh, true.
So
true.
The fact that he came over, the fact that he came over to be the head coach, that's a big coup for TCU to be able to make that happen. In view of the fact that they were, you would have figured Sonny would have maybe stayed. That being said, West Virginia, they've kind of fallen on hard times as well. They've got a transfer quarterback though that might turn things around for them in JT Daniels, who was there for Georgia. He was a Georgia quarterback just a year ago. So, and then Iowa State, I got to tell you, Iowa State, I don't care how many people they're replacing. I believe in Matt Campbell. And so, although I just said that this is our bottom tier as far as we're concerned, there's a couple of these teams in there that I really feel like, Kansas State included, that they can make noise in there. At Texas Tech possibly could. I would say that they're going to, with the new coach, he's bringing some excitement. I like the guy. I think he's doing a great job. I think that they're probably at least a year or so away from really making too much noise, even though they did have a winning record last year, won the bowl game, all that. Okay, so taking a look, let's just start off, obviously, as we said, with Kansas. Let's just call it what it is. Kansas has been awful. They've just been awful. And for whatever reason, they've just had a hard time kind of putting anything together. They do return the most starters of any team in the Big 12, 17 of them. Is that a good thing? No, because they sucked. So, they're returning 17 starters. But then again, Jason Bean, who was their quarterback, is one of their 9 starters that is coming back on offense. It doesn't look like he is going to even keep that job. It looked like, I know in spring practice, it was Jalen Daniels who was listed as starter. So even though they have all these starters coming back, whether or not they start all year or whether they start at all remains to be seen. Their number just real quick,
their best player seems to be a kid named Kenny Logan who plays safety. He's their only preseason first team All-American, and I don't even think they have very many second or third team, and that's coming from Pro Football Focus. That's not, I don't know if that's, this is the real preseason All-Americans or whatever, but Pro Football Focus does a pretty good job at evaluating talent. Sometimes I completely disagree, but if you just don't know, you can kind of look there, and I'm not seeing a whole lot of Kansas. They got a third team running back, Devin Neal, on the team. And, the further down you go, I think that's they have all the way down to honorable mentions. They got 2 guys or 3 guys, an edge rusher too. They got 3 guys on the entire list, first, second, third team, and honorable mention. They have 1 first team, 1 third team, 1 honorable mention. I think Kansas is probably really, really bad. Didn't they beat Texas, though?
They have been. And the thing is, They did. They beat twice in a row. So it's been over 1,000 days since Texas has beaten Kansas. Part of that was the COVID part, but they've lost 2 games in a row.
Nair, the one-legged monster, is bringing Texas to the Big 12 championship, 1 water bottle at a time.
Look, the guy that you really need to worry about it for Texas is going to be Xavier Worthy. Let's go to West Virginia. They are, obviously they had a tough season a year ago. They also beat Texas, but
can't help yourself, bro.
And I don't even try to. You know that. You already know. But, they lost 4 key defenders off of that team that wasn't very good, though. But, they've got JT Daniels coming in to play quarterback. But they also, no. So the quarterback situation there, they lost 4 key defenders as well at West Virginia. They lost the defensive lineman Akeem Messidor, linebacker Josh Chandler, Semedo, and cornerbacks Nick Troy Fortune and Daryl Porter Jr., who transferred since January. There's been, if you watch the Gold and Blue Dude ever, he knows a lot about these guys, and he expects them to look pretty good. I think that it could be ugly. They start off with the backyard brawl. Right away. Pittsburgh, that's their biggest rival, and if they play well in that game, it could maybe propel them to be a decent team. If they don't, it could be a long season.
I'll tell you what, Jason, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. And here's why. I think having a Georgia quarterback is huge. I think just kind of looking at some of these guys on PFF and they're All-Americans, they got 3 on the first team. And I know that they lost a lot of starters. They lost probably the most starters out of any team. Is that what you just said? I think they lost the most out of any team in the Big 12.
Whether they were transfers or whatever, but it's like, and I don't know how real happy they are with their coach down there. I mean, I watch Golden Blue just for entertainment purposes only because the guys.
But they got pride.
But none of them.
They got
like
pride. They're going to show
so.
up. I think I'm going to use early season, especially betting. You know, if the spreads are a little wide, I think this is a team there might be some money to be made off of. And maybe they're not winning games,
right?
But I think they're closer than the experts think. Just having that quarterback and that pride, and they got some good players.
They'd be like the third long shot. They've got them. I know that Vegas has them as far as championship odds, Big 12 championship odds. They're better than Texas Tech to win it. They're at plus 2,800, but Texas Tech is at plus 5,000. Kansas, just to kind of go on what you said a minute ago, plus 30,000 to win the Big 12.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, yeah, it makes sense. So we'll jump on next team up, probably looking at TCU. Under new head coach Sonny Dykes, who came over from SMU a year ago. I think that's actually, as I said, for him to have moved over to TCU is surprising to me. I know with Gary Patterson leaving, it's easy to expect them to have a downturn year, but they really weren't doing very good the last few years under Gary. I think he had kind of lost the program a little bit. Not to hate on him at all. I think he's a great pickup for Texas as far as their defensive coordinator job, or basically special assistant, whatever it is that they're calling him over there. But I think that Sonny's done a good job. He did a good job at Baylor. He's done a really good job at SMU. I think he beat TCU the last two times they played. So that's a big pickup there. And then, of course, they have preseason and last year's Big 12 first-team receiver, Quentin Johnston. Tell us a little bit about him.
I love him. I love him. And I was kind of just trying to look back at a few guys. So you start talking Sonny Dykes, and sometimes I don't know what I'm getting into until we start the show. Once you said Sonny Dykes, and I knew you Sonny Dykes, but I didn't realize who he was, SMU. Then it got my wheels turning because now I'm like, oh, okay. So just so y'all know, what I was thinking of as a few receivers: Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, Cortland Sutton. These are big name receivers that came out of SMU. So that gets me more pumped about a guy named Quentin Johnston.
I don't know if they all played.
Maybe not. But either way, you got me thinking about SMU receivers. Yeah. And I'm like, some of these guys have a lot of success in the NFL. Quentin Johnston, go watch his highlights. Go to YouTube, type in Quentin Johnston highlights. Whenever you watch him, you think you're watching Larry Fitzgerald. I'm not kidding. He has the dreads like him. He moves like him. I mean, he looks like Larry on the film. And I'm like, dude, 6'4", 200 pounds. I love this guy. I'm so excited. I'm going to have him in DFS, Daily Fantasy, on DraftKings as often as I can possibly get him, because I think this guy's going to have himself a year. He'll be in the NFL next year.
Yeah. I agree. And we'll see kind of where they are as far as, what they've got coming back. It's hard to really predict exactly what they are. I would say I expect them to finish middle of the pack, lower middle of the pack. We'll see kind of what happens there. But obviously the next step up from there, or maybe right along there with them, would be Texas Tech. They have a new head coach coming into Lubbock this year. He's really kind of shook things up. I think everybody really, really liked Texas Tech with new head coach Joey McGuire, who in Lubbock, they're very, very high on this guy. He was the assistant head coach at Baylor a year ago. He also I think he won a pair, at least one, I know for sure, but I'm pretty sure he won 2 state championships at Texas in Texas 5 or Texas 6A football. So he's well known around the state of Texas. He's got some electric energy, man. They really love him around Lubbock, and they've actually put some money around him. So do I think that they're going to do much with it this year? I don't know. Honestly, they had a winning record, even though they fired their coach mid-season last year. They won the bowl game. They beat Mike Leach in the bowl game. So they can. This is another one of those teams that very easily could compete. I could see them being one of those teams that could beat Texas if Texas starts having, if that loss to Alabama, which is going to happen. turns into a hangover, they got to deal with Texas Tech right away, like 2 weeks later. So it could turn into it could snowball on Texas pretty quick if Quinn Ewers doesn't get his feet under him.
Let me say something real quick, because I think this is important. Joey McGuire. I think if Texas Tech goes undefeated this year, which they probably won't, but if they did, no, hear me out, Jason. Hear me out. If Texas Tech goes undefeated with a name like Joey McGuire,
dragon flies out of my butt.
Listen, if he goes undefeated, a name like Joey McGuire, isn't that such like a name that you'll see in the movies, like Jerry Maguire or
Jerry
like Joey
Maguire,
off of Friends? This guy win an Emmy. He'll win an Emmy. So I think with that name, I say you go put all your paycheck in Vegas on Texas Tech right now, because we're making movies.
Do not do that. Do not do that. Don't do it. All right.
The Raiders have the best jerseys in college football. I love their jerseys. The black and red looks really, really cool. Anyway, throwing that out there.
The Red Raiders are – listen, they've got a high-powered offense. They're going to always do that. That's one thing about Texas Tech. Listen, even though Mike Leach left, the offense never did. They've continued to run the same thing. Really the worst that they've been was under Kingsbury. And you know how I feel about Cliff Kingsbury. I think he's a terrible coach. I think he sucked there. I think he sucks now. But, to me, they're going to be, Zach Kitley's come in. He's been one of those high-powered coordinators. They've been liking him at different places. He was at Houston Baptist and then Western Kentucky, I believe it was. And they only have 4 starters coming back on that offense. But you can expect that they're going to put up points. If they can do anything defensively,
they never do.
McGuire, if that's – well, they really don't. But I think that's where they're probably the strongest, and I think that's what Joey McGuire is most known for is his defensive coaching. So, we're going to see what they're about. I wouldn't bet anything on them because I just think it's an unknown.
Maybe bet they'll make a movie about Joey McGuire. That'd be a good bet.
Okay. Okay. Next up, Kansas State.
I'm interested about this team.
Kansas State head
go
coach.
with the coach, but I'm interested about Kansas State just because a great running back, on that list. And, I'm excited to watch him in another year. It looks like they could be pretty sneaky good. And I don't even know if it's sneaky, but they look like they could be pretty good.
It's not real sneaky. I think that they're kind of one of those dark horse win the championship or at least make a lot of noise in this. Chris Klieman, however you say it, the guy he's proven to be a good coach. And here's the thing. Kansas State has been giving the best of this conference hell for years already. Obviously Bill Snyder's the most legendary coach to ever coach there. He started off the career of Brent Venables, the current Oklahoma coach, and former coach Bob Stoops as well. So this is the guy that, they have tradition at Kansas State. As much tradition as almost anybody not named Oklahoma or Texas in that conference. And I think that's easily true. So I do feel like these guys are going to I believe that they're going to make noise. I know they beat Oklahoma twice in the last 3 or 4 years. These guys a little bit better, and Klieman he's proven to be one of those guys that everybody he's on that next group of coaches that everybody expects to succeed. So I would not, talking about some of their better players. Did you Deuce Vaughn. Tell us about him a little bit, man. He's
absolutely a stud. And I'll be totally honest. I didn't realize he was that good. And I'm just excited to watch him. I mean, I can pull up some metrics and stuff like that, but
they're going to run the ball, bro. They're going to run the ball.
And I was just thinking, and we're talking about these teams, and, I'm a bit of a history guy. And I was just thinking, like, we talked about Kansas. My favorite Kansas player was Aqib Talib. We talked about
I forgot it.
He played at Kansas. Man. Anyways, oh my gosh, my favorite. Check this out.
Quarterback
what's up?
Go ahead, tell me.
My favorite player to ever play at Kansas State, his name is Darren Sproles. Okay. So Kansas State, listen to these numbers absolutely. For Deuce Vaughn. 5'6", 176 pounds. That feels like Darren Sproles.
Darren Sproles' name comes up an awful lot when people start talking about Deuce Vaughn, and that's exactly why.
This dude had 235 rush attempts, 1,404 yards, and 18 touchdowns, averaging 6 yards a pop. This dude, I am so excited to watch him.
Stud.
And he's got good offensive linemen. Yeah, I'm excited. And then the other team, what team did we talk about last? Texas Tech. Favorite Texas Tech guy, Michael Crabtree.
Texas Tech.
Anyway, moving on.
Oh yeah, Crab was amazing. But and the other thing that they would throw in about Kansas State, they have a transfer in from Nebraska, Adrian Martinez, the quarterback. So he was struggling here's the thing people don't realize about Nebraska. They lost like all their losses that they were 3-9 or something, but they lost 8 games by like under 10 points. They were so close. They were so close to being, it could have been a totally different year for them. Adrian Martinez's problem was, I think him and Frost weren't getting along very good, but he's a positive guy. I think he could be a positive, uplifting player for Kansas State. We'll kind of find that out as we move on. But again, this is another one of those teams that I don't discount them at all. I like Coach Klieman. I really like Deuce Vaughn, and I think that Martinez might be a perfect fit here. They didn't have anything else. It can't be worse. So, I feel like it's a good fit. And he's coming from a running system. He can run the ball a little bit. He's not the best passer, but they don't really need to pass that much there anyway. So again, I feel like that's a good there. Now we're moving on to the team that I feel like is, well, here's the deal. It's easy to it would be easy to write these guys off a little bit. But Iowa State, who I feel like they lost Breece Hall. They lost Brock Purdy. We know that. And before we even go there, these are not guys, particularly with Breece Hall. This is not a guy that you're just going to replace and be like, he's the same dude. Yeah, Purdy's okay. I don't think Purdy's as good as everybody else thought he was.
He's pretty dang good, man.
But what I'll say is this. Matt Campbell is a guy they don't have to replace. This dude took a perennial doormat in the Big 12 and has turned them into a perennial defender. They're the only team that beat Oklahoma State a year ago in the regular season. They basically screwed up their chance to get to go to the playoff, although they screwed it up worse when they lost the Big 12 championship game, which is what they do. But
people talk about Breece Hall, and I'm a fantasy guy, and I don't think people really understand how good Breece Hall is. So Breece Hall is one of very, very few guys who is over 215 pounds and runs under a 4.40. Like we're talking like Saquon Barkley style. We're talking like some big names, and then his production matches that of like what's that guy's name? Joseph Adai. And then these guys that leave are like,
wow,
he's in this category of, he's like a 99 percenter. And so when you lose a 99 percenter on your team, you're not replacing him very easy. And you should get excited about him if you played for anyone but the Jets in fantasy football. But I just wanted to point that out. Like, this guy is an incredible athlete. He has incredible vision. I mean, incredible. This guy will have 2 guys in the hole and make them both miss with a spin move is about as nasty as I've ever seen. Like, the guy's ridiculous. Anyways, So I just think losing a guy like that takes a huge toll. Huge toll.
Absolutely. No, and I mean, I think that what everybody has basically been saying coming into this season is that, you're going to have to replace a guy like that. They're going to have to do it kind of by committee, because you're never going to find a guy like Breece that is going to do everything that Breece did. I mean, you're right. He was a freaking problem for everybody in the conference. I've seen him basically for 4 seasons just rip up, Big 12 defenses. and including, everybody ripped up Oklahoma's defense, but
this guy's
that being said, I mean,
these
guys
30 yards down the field like he plays receiver.
He's a freaking stud, guys. But again, I also would say, Matt Campbell, this dude has built them into a big time team. Since 2017, they have 29 Big 12 wins. It used to take them probably 30 years to get that many Big 12 wins. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, not that much, but just being real, they were awful, and they are the real deal. I think that he's got 4 top 10 guys. I mean, the dude is just the real deal. And so coming in, obviously they've got to replace guys like Purdy, Breece Hall, guys like that. What are they gonna be like? We're gonna see. Hunter Dekkers is a sophomore coming in. They love him. They really like the guy. They think he throws better. And I feel like he's a lefty, but he set career Iowa high school records. I think he had like 11. He had 10,000 yards, almost 11,000 yards total in his career. Over 100 touchdowns in high school. I mean, this was a guy that I'm pretty sure that the Hawkeyes would have loved to have had him, and he went to Iowa State. So that says something right there. I know that that's between those two schools in that in that state, it cut down the line. You're one or the other, and that's it. But listen. There was only one team to talk about in Iowa, and that was the Hawkeyes. And it's not that way anymore. As I said, I feel like Dekkers is going to be – we're going to find out how quick he jumps in there. The other problem that you would probably have to look at is the fact that these guys are not returning a lot of they're not returning a ton on that side of the ball on defense. So they only have 3 returning starters coming back. That being said, that's where Matt Campbell's at his best, is building defenses that can kind of slow down some of these teams. And the Big 12 is not the pass-happy league that it was 5 years ago. You've got Oklahoma that does it. Texas is going to probably continue to do it, and Texas Tech, and that's about it. The rest of them are pretty balanced. They like to run the ball. And so overall, and that even includes Oklahoma State. They've traditionally been a pretty pass-happy team themselves. Their strength is definitely not passing the ball with Sanders coming back as quarterback. Now, if Gundy ever gets in, or their other guy, I forget his name right now, they could be really good at that. But I expect Iowa State is going to contend again. They're the only team that beat Oklahoma State in the regular season last year. So even in a down year, they were still pretty good, But that's the first half of this. I'm going to say that I would expect them to probably have about 7 to 8 wins. If they got hot, they could definitely contend for the whole thing. But I would expect that there's going to be some tough games along the way. But hey, listen, a couple of those are pretty early in the season. If they can get a couple of those wins, I know they have Oklahoma pretty early, or Oklahoma State's pretty early. Too. Texas is pretty early. Obviously, Iowa. If they win that Iowa game, you better watch out, because that could send them on a season that nobody else in the Big 12 wants to deal with. So that's the first half of this preview show. Don't forget, guys, like, subscribe, ring the bell, make sure that you don't miss any moments of the Nobody's Safe podcast.